What is poppin', people? Welcome back to another video. We're going to be going into a deck profile for the deck that you've been seeing since the beginning of this channel, taking into Digimon. It's going to be Armour Rush once again, the Magnamon X profile for BT9, with a little bit of a twist that you won't have seen in any of the other deck profiles, so make sure to stick around for the entire video to see what's a little bit different here. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to start things off nice and simple. Eggs, you can run just 4 eggs. Most people run just the 4 of Upamon. If they've got an empty Digimon, draw 1. It's a standard staple for blue, and 1 Shaomon as the 5th egg if you do want to run it. Not everyone does because they like to see the consistent Upamon, and it definitely feels bad if you see your opponent just drop something down turn 1 and you have Shaomon as your first egg, so you're not able to really punish it. But for times when you're swinging in with your armors, it helps to have that little bit of an extra boost. The fact that it is all turns does just kind of go quite nicely. We are going to start things off with the level 3s. So, for Veemon, nice and simple. Jamming Veemon just puts in work, everyone knows what it does. And the fact that they have to answer it if you leave it out does just mean that it's quite an effective 3-drop. Obviously very nice to have it on top of Upamon as well for the easy draw. If you don't need something out of your inherited effects, then jamming Veemon, one of the best ones to go, and especially if you're running Fire Rocket, which you're going to be seeing later in the video. If you want to go for the Davis-Ken shenanigans, you need jamming Veemon. Have cut it to 3, have bounced it back up to 4. Right now it's sitting at 4, and it's going to be joined by 4 of the BT8 Veemon, as there are so many double colors in this one. Some people run 3 of this in favor of the ST9 Veemon. I prefer to run the dual colors. I'd rather be able to pick up my Megadeth pieces, my Magnamon X Antibody, because it's not free type like the ST9 searcher is. So we've only got 3 of these. As this will search all of the Veemons, it will search all of your armors, but it won't search your Magnamon X, and it won't search some of the other tech options that we have in this deck. But if you're looking for Veemon pieces, generally how it goes is, if you're looking for Veemon pieces, you want to be going down with that ST9. If you're looking for specifically armors, then you can drop it as well. But if you're looking for anything else, or you're thinking that something else will show up later in the deck, then you need to be very, very careful when dropping it. You're going to be seeing 2 of the EX1 Veemon. Don't do too many restand shenanigans, but it does feel nice to have your Magnamon come down for 2 instead of just 3. And also, if you are playing aggressively with Davis-Ken, it helps to be able to get that cheaper Digivolution cost. Obviously, it's a lot riskier to go for Fire Rocket if you're going for something like this, but EX1 Veemon definitely has won me games. And the final rookie of the lineup is going to be that ST8 Veemon, that draw 1. Very, very nice opening Veemon to have in hand. Just gets your hand fixed and nice and full as soon as possible. Later game, it's not quite as useful, but a pretty simple start. So that's the rookie lineup, running 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 14 rookies. I personally wouldn't go any higher. I've considered running fewer, but I hate bricking. And armor, I feel like when armor bricks, it bricks harder than anything else. On to the champions. 1 hybrid per game. I prefer Kendo Garurumon just because I prefer the Digimon from the show versus Lobomon. So I've been running Kendo as my hybrid, but any blue hybrid per game is fine. Obviously, it wouldn't be a Magnamon X deck without Magnamon. Run 4 of those. It is your blocker. And the fact that it restands itself is quite useful as well, just for making sure that if you do play aggressively, you maybe don't have that extra Davis-Ken, you can at least get a blocker ready for the next turn. And also keeps your Magnamon X Antibody safe if you are going into Magnamon. Get that DP boost so you have a couple of armors in trash. And then if you've got any memory left so that you can then go into Magnamon X, it keeps the DP and is standing. So if it does get de-digivolved, if you're playing the black matchup, you at least have a nice beefy boy that can still block. For Raidramon, this one shouldn't really come as a surprise. The fact that it enables Davis-Ken so much from being both a blue and green source, the only green Digimon in the deck, it's such a useful card to have. We run 4 of them. And sometimes they do survive when swinging, if you do actually need it to survive, thanks to the Shaomon. Usually this is the card that I like to go Shaomon over, personally. as I feel like the extra 1,000 really makes a difference going from 5k to 6k versus the 8k to 9 or whatever Magnamon's sitting at. Getting that extra 1k doesn't really make too much of a difference. Rydramon definitely the Digimon that you want to have going over that. And our final armor shouldn't really come too much as a surprise. We're running 3 of the Flamedramon. I've cut it down from 4 from my original list to make space for the hybrid. And as most people have noted, you want your armors to die a lot, so the 3k that it gives actually makes it a lot easier for it to stick around. It's great that it can swing over level 5s pretty much consistently thanks to the 3k boost. But unless you are looking to really just swing into something, get the 3k, pop it off, swing in again with something else like another Flamedramon, it really isn't quite as useful for Davis Ken aggression on that first attack. So I've cut it down to 3, and obviously Lydramon sticks at 4 thanks to the Davis Ken boost. So running 12 champions. Nothing too out of the ordinary just yet. Level 5s, we are running 1 Chimeramon. This was the first like little tech slot. I've seen some people cut this for a 4th Magnamon X Antibody. I prefer to run this because I quite often manage to get wide in my local format. So going wide actually enables me to immediately go into that Chimeramon. If you're getting rid of your Lydramon as a result, it will give you the blue and green sources, so it still keeps Davis Ken active, and if you don't have it, if you don't have another way of getting up, then you can also try and just get that Raydramon up in raising. So I really like the board clear that this gives, because otherwise it doesn't really have too much in the form of removal. And the fact that it keeps its colors for Davis Ken is super useful. Here's probably when it is at its weakest though. It can go up to 12k when attacking on your turn, but if you're not finding a way of getting back over it, it can be a little bit fragile for bringing your stack in for a lack of armor purge. Only 1 level 5. When I didn't actually have the Chimeramon, I was running an extra copy of the Awakening of the Golden Knight, because that card effectively is like a level 5, so you don't really need to run more than that. I've seen some people run Shakuamon, but I'm mostly focused on aggression, and the board clear from Chimeramon definitely helps you surprise people. Now, of course, level 6s, Magnamon X Antibody, just 3 of them. Thanks to Minikill for the ult art for this one as well. But yeah, 3 Magnamon X Antibody is your boss monster for the deck. The ability to block even though it's not actually got a blocker, so it gets around things like Fire Rocket in the mirror, because it's not actually got the blocker effect, so it doesn't get popped by it, and the fact that you can swing and then still be able to target attacks. If you're coming in off of a Magnamon turn, it's pretty much unkillable. Only really way to get around it is to delete it, which will obviously give you the recovery, or bounce it, which can be kind of a nuisance. But very, very strong card. You can run it at 4, especially if you're getting rid of the Chimeramon. So really, it depends on your local format. Your mileage may vary. I may eventually might get tired of the Chimeramon and go to 4 X Antibody and just run no level 5s and then the Awakenings as my way of getting into X Antibody. But I liked having the Chimeramon just because it gives you a little bit more freedom on how you want to get into the route. You're not relying on seeing Magnamon for the Warp Digivolve if you're not getting your Awakenings. Also, it's a decent card to hit in security. 8k is not too bad, but just the 1 of Chimeramon, 3 of Magnamon X Antibody. And then we talked about the Chimeramon as your tech options, but we've got 2 more in the form of white cards. We've got Omnimon Merciful Mode and Imperial Dramon Paladin Mode to round out our Digimon as our level 7s. Omnimon Merciful Mode coming over Magnamon X Antibody allows you to delete 1. Merciful Mode will also pop itself from the top of the stack, so it's not that you can stack them that way. The ability really to trash 1 without any form of counterplay is kind of why Merciful Mode's in here. Obviously it's a 6 cost, so it's very, very expensive, and you can see your turn getting ended just off of that. And in some matchups like Metal Gear, I'd say that you kind of want to just do this when you have high memory. You don't really want to end your turn with it, because passing over more than 3 really just allows Metal Gear to go straight back up, and it'll often be the only card you have out, so it'll get bounced and you won't get its effect procced off. The delete and bottom deck 10, super important against purple. And in the Alphamon, the Alpha-Mon matchup, because it means that they can't just trash off their Oriyumons early and then get away with it. So very, very useful card in that specific matchup where I felt like Magnamon X Antibody really struggles. If it does get de-digivolved, then you've at least got the Magnamon X Antibody underneath it. So pretty useful card. If it hits in security, sure, it disappears. 15k should, you know, catch people by surprise. Really, most decks aren't expecting to hit a 15k in security all that much. Especially when you're playing into Armours, which usually does have the weakest security. This is a nice little surprise, and it enables Imperial Digimon Paladin mode, instead of being 7 cost, to come down for 3, which obviously keeps turn if you've done that. So Merciful mode coming out first, very expensive, yes, but at the very least gets the damage done. Then you can bottom deck it from your trash, whether you hit it in security or whether you digivolved over it normally and has trashed itself. Paladin mode keeps that pressure on, keeps those sources gone, very useful in the black mirror, the black matchup. Excellent card, definitely. Definitely loved having it by itself, and then with BT9 adding Imperial Omnimon Merciful mode, ways to get it out cheaper, and of course a big security Digimon. Definitely something that you love to see. Very, very difficult to get both of them off in the same game, but when it does, it feels amazing. And you're pretty much winning the game if Imperial Digimon Paladin mode is coming down for just 3. Like, the game should be yours. Now we're going to be going back to a little bit more normal. For our options, we are running 2 Fire Rocket. Didn't have space for 3, really wished I could fit a 3rd one for that aggression. The blocker deletion in security actually comes up thanks to Metal Gear being just frequent in the format, but only 2 for them, so it can kind of hurt in the mirror not having those Fire Rocket aggression. But in all the other matchups where the speed isn't as necessary, I'm quite happy to run 2. But yeah, you might want to be able to find space for a 3rd one, especially if you are playing in a much faster meta in your locals. But for me, 2 is just fine. Running 3 blue memory boost. These all used to be Hammer Sparks, but as more and more people release their list, I started to really like the shift away from Hammer Spark, as my deck doesn't go for hyper aggression, hence the reduced number of Fire Rockets. I'm quite happy to play a blue memory boost, search for any piece. It's one of the only ways to get your hybrid off of a search. And also it does find your Armours, it finds your X Antibody. The playing it down and then getting the delayed effect is really, really nice, especially also in security, just going straight there, and then you can really start turboing, because the level 7s being in the deck does require you to be quite greedy with memory. So having 1 memory boost and a tamer out, or even one of the dual tamers, can be really, really solid for getting that ready for your Omnimons. So I've gone for 3 blue memory boosts, and just so they can't be too insane into my security, because obviously, sure, it gives the memory to you next turn, but having a security bomb in the form of 1 Ice Wall, because Ice Wall's at 1, and 1 Hammer Spark to gain that 2 memory does threaten in security. And sometimes you just need that extra little boost. Sure, it's not as much memory as the delayed blue memory boost, but it's gas for when you need it, and it can be a difference maker when you just need that little extra nudge if you're just 1 memory short. So 1 Hammer Spark, 1 Ice Wall to join the blue memory boost. 2 of the Awakening of the Golden Knight. This was at 3 when we didn't have Chimeramon, but as I said before, you can either opt to go 4 Magnamon X Antibody, 3 Awakening of the Golden Knights. I personally don't like running 3 of the Awakening. I started running 3 at the beginning, but I found that after you've got 1, you really don't want to see a second one, and once you're seeing, like, if you've got 3, I feel like you're more likely to hit 2 when you don't need them, rather than not see them the whole game. And I'd rather not see them the whole game than have 2 in hand at any point, because it's just so clunky, especially when you're looking for Armours or other cards, or you don't quite have the Magnamon to go with it, because obviously it does require you to actually go into a card with Magnamon in its hand, either to go into another level 4 for a nice big double Armour Purge stack, or if you are going into X Antibody off of any card. Since it does basically turn all of your Armours into Magnamon as far as digivolving into X Antibody, very useful card. It is cheaper than just warp Digivolving Magnamon into X Antibody, and it does give that DP reduction prevention. But all in all, the extra protection is nice, but not the be-all and end-all, so you don't really need to go ham with how many. 2 is perfectly fine. And we're going to go 3 Megadeaths, mostly because I didn't have space for a 4th. If the situation changes and I start feeling the need for more removal, then Megadeath will probably bump up to 4. It's probably the card that I want to make most space for, and if the level 7s, for example, for you aren't working out, then you can easily cut one of the level 7s, put your 4th copy of Megadeath in, and it's breezy. Great removal. Basically forces your local players, if they're playing black, to run Breath of the Gods in order to get around it. Most other cards just have to hold it. So Megadeath can get you out of so many situations. And now we go into the Tamers lineup. All the Tamers. 2 Davis, the best blue memory setter in the game. Searching the blue and green. Green sometimes comes up if it manages to catch the Ragermon, but realistically you're just using it to search a piece, be it your hybrid or anything else like that. Really strong card. Don't personally run through, because I feel like once you've got the 1 Davis, you really don't need the second one, unless you're getting punished for dropping level 3s, say you're playing against red, or anything really that just keeps popping your level 3s back to hand, or just popping them in general. Spending the extra memory to get the extra Davis down sometimes comes up, but more often than not, I'm running 2, so maybe 1 can hit in security, or I can get 1 down nice and early. 3 Davis Ken, because the card is busted. The fact that you can just gain so much memory off of it when you hit it in security. I often tend to hit at least 1 in security when I've got them at 3, and it definitely feels good to play 1 and then hit a second one, and then suddenly you're gaining massive memory if you've got the Raidramon and Lazing. Raidramon in Raising. But sometimes if they apply the pressure down, they can really stop you from playing around it, and if you can't keep your Raidramon on board, sometimes it helps to have our final tech of Mimi Tachikawa and Joe Kiro at the start of your turn if you have an unsuspended Digimon. Oh, if you have a suspended Digimon in play, gain 1 memory. If your opponent has a suspended Digimon in play, gain 1 memory. So you're basically punishing them for playing the game. It allows you to keep your aggression on. You only need to keep 1. So if you've got a blocker, if you can swing with the other stack. This deck really does like going too wide, because the Metal Gear matchup bounces the lowest level Digimon back to the hand. So if you can have something small on the board just to keep your big stack safe, it gets bounced. It also means that you can play super aggressive and you'll get the memory back. It plays before reboot, so you'll get the memory before reboot comes in. It puts Megadeath online, and if they've attacked as well, then they're basically being punished for playing the game. The second thing of all turns, if your blue or green Digimon deletes a Digimon by battle and survives, you may suspend the Tamer to draw 1. Doesn't come up very often, but if you are playing that slightly slower board control style, where you will try and use Raidramon to suspend lower level Digimon or anything like that, and you're actually swinging over things to try and keep their board under control, being able to draw 1 every turn, it even works during their turn if you've got the block. Very, very cool card. And obviously can't run more of it because the Davis Kent is just so important. But yeah, it's definitely worth considering. You can just cut it and put a 4th Davis Ken if you want to keep things simple, but I think the extra little bit of surprise off of the Mimi and Joe, especially when it comes down early, forcing them to really consider when they want to attack, or whether the attacking is worth pushing me past a particular memory threshold, especially if another Davis Ken is on the field. It's not just, oh, you're going to 5, it's, oh, you could go to 6 and beyond, which could really threaten Omnimon Merciful Mode, anything like that. It means that you're digivolving at least twice per turn. And it's definitely a very cool card. It was one of the main things besides Magnamon X Antibody that I was looking forward to when BT9 got announced. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think of this deck list. It's definitely not your standard Magnamon X Antibody. It's relatively consistent. I'm quite happy with the consistency I've seen from it. And it just brings something new to the otherwise figured out Magnamon X Antibody formula. So that's all from me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be back with another one of a very different kind. I say that, it's still going to be another blue deck. I'm just waiting on 2 more cards to arrive. And then another deck profile will be coming out, which honestly is in preparation for BT10, because I think even though it doesn't really do much in BT9, it's going to be a solid contender once the BT10 Cross Wars support drops. So look forward to that one, and until next time.